Just focus on that only thing. That is the best advice I can give.
Let me start with the first question. 10, 20 years ago, roughly in Korea, I guess influenced by neighboring countries like Japan or China, people were pretty much interested in asking each other with blood types just to figure out their personalities. For example, if you are blood type A, that means you're kind of a timid and very cautious, passive. Fast forward, nowadays, people who have strong beliefs in science, they go after MBTI. These days, people trying to get to know each other with MBTI. Part of it is fun, but also they're trying to understand each other with MBTI code. I happen to know about your book. This could be an alternative way of get to know each other and then self-recognition.
It is about humans. It is about human behavior, and we all show certain behaviors. I mean, we have probably two different kinds of behaviors. We have this natural style, which is you when you are not affected so much of your environment, when you can be actually yourself. But then we put this mask on when we go to work, right? We put this mask on, which I call the adapted style, the adapted behavior. And let's say your interpretation of the situation. If you are an accountant, you would act in a very logical, detailed, fact-oriented manner. But if you are a salesperson, then you might have to be more of a storyteller. You have to be more open-minded, a bit smiling a little bit more, and send out these positive signals, not only work through Excel sheets. Interesting with this, different people interpret the same situation in different ways. I mean, I had this phone call with a lawyer yesterday, and she was laughing all the time, which for me was strange because this is about the law, this is about important things. You can't sit there and laugh, I don't know. She was a fun person. She laughed the whole meeting, and I asked her, why are you laughing so much? I said, this is serious matters. Yes, but I laugh a lot, she said. So I mean, we are biased as well. If you assume a lawyer have to be serious, stone-faced, then you will react when she's laughing. But if you assume that a car salesman must laugh and he doesn't, and who's wrong and who's right, you don't know. It's just a matter of understanding that people are people. We all act based on what we think is right. And usually it's by instinct. I mean, as I mentioned, when I was 24, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I acted the way I did. I just went by gut feeling. I do that a lot nowadays too, but I have 30 years experience, life experience. So these days I can control myself and thinking, okay, maybe I shouldn't go in that direction exactly here. That might be a bad idea. So I'll hold myself back. But let's take some training.
How can you interpret different culture or culture barriers, and how can they apply successfully?
Really good question, but it is a bit complicated to answer. This is going to sound like a cliche, I know this, but people are basically the same all over the planet. You mentioned MBTI. I use DISC. It works in a similar way. I use DISC because it's easier to grasp, it's easier to understand, and it's easier to remember. It's much easier to remember, let's say, a red and yellow behavior than an ENTJ personality type. That's just a pedagogical thing. When you try these methods and use these theories, you get the same result all over the planet. I mean, if you analyze people in South Korea, you will get the same on an individual level, the same description of a blue behavior or green behavior as you will get in Sweden or in Germany or in Australia or in Japan. And people will understand. That is why I think my books are selling all over the planet, because everybody can say, aha, that's the way it is. I knew it. But then you have the cultural, let's call it blanket on top of everything. Silence is golden, right? Say that to an American and see what happens. And he will say, are you, what's wrong with you? Are you stupid? Silence is obviously not golden. Speak up, take some place, present yourself to the world, say something, be loud, be clear. And who's right and who's wrong? I don't know. But these are the cultural differences. But then again, when we compare the Korean statistics with the American statistics, it's going to be about the same. As many yellows, as greens, as reds, as blues, because people are people. If you had been brought up in Sweden, you would be more like a Swede. If I had been brought up in South Korea, I would be more like a Korean guy. That is just the way it is, because we are affected by our culture. But it's nothing good or bad. It's just differences. You go to Germany, it's very much like alles in Ordnung. They take all the details down. They document absolutely everything, And if you go to the subway in Berlin, which I have done a couple of times, and the train is 49 seconds late, everybody standing like this when it comes in, bad. You missed your time, Mr. Train driver there. That is not okay. In Sweden, that just happens, What could you do? Let's say Finland, they never say anything. They are so quiet, you cannot imagine. I don't know how much you know about Northern Europe, that's far away from Korea. I know this, but still, our closest neighbors, they are so introvert, so it's unimaginable. They hardly answer direct questions. It's more like, yes. And then you can go to little Denmark, tiny country at the south of Swedish border, really close to Finland. There, everybody's talking all the time, very open. But again, on an individual level, they are about the same. The differences are the same and the similarities are the same. So it's a bit of a 2, 3, maybe 4-dimensional question. The whole issue is really complicated and fascinating at the same time.
Then how can they remove themselves from unwanted situation using DISC? Is it even possible?
Well, the short answer is yes, it is possible. I get this question, why should we use these kinds of tools at all? Can we just try to get along and be as we are? DISC or MBTI or the 5-factor theory, the whole point is if you can use it to build your self-awareness, your self-insights, if you like, then you can also do something about yourself, not necessarily because there's something wrong with you, but we all have strengths, we have weaknesses, there's pros and cons with everybody. There's things that I am really excellent at, and there is things that I am really bad at. There's some things I shouldn't even touch. But then again, that kind of interests me. Can I do something? Can I learn? Can I get better? Can I focus on one specific weakness that I might have in order to be better, to produce more, to make more useful contribution to the world? I don't have to write books. I don't have to travel and give lectures. I have other things to do. But I like it because for me, maybe that's a bit of a selfish thing. I feel good when I can teach somebody else something. If you can learn something from me, I feel good. Let's say if you did an analysis and you got this document in your hand and it says, okay, you're like this and these are the pros, these are the cons, you could work more with this, or here you excel, or you're already a star over there. So the problem here is, what is a weakness really? If somebody says, I think you're arrogant, another one would say, no, I think you're strong-willed. I think you're just a powerful person. Who's right and who's wrong? I don't know. It depends on the environment. If you like to be more sociable, well, that's good in some context, but in another context, you should actually shut up, But let's say you actually identify one weakness that you want to do something about. Well, focus on that and only that. Try to work on that one as good as you can. I guess it's the same thing over at your place. I mean, people, now I'm going to renew myself. I'm going to update myself. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to eat more health food. I'm going to take long walks. I'm going to educate myself, and then I do everything at the same time, which is impossible. You can't tire yourself out. Forget it. It's not going to work. And then you end up in a worse place than before, right? So take one thing. If the DISC model says you could be better at this, well, focus on this and only that, and try to really, really see in what situations you could be more extrovert. You could be more sociable, more talkative. You could maybe present your ideas in a better way. Everybody has good ideas. Not everybody can present them. Maybe you can practice on how to presenting a new idea to your boss or to your friends or to some entrepreneur, to some risk capitalist or whatever. Just focus on that only thing. That is the best advice I can give. Don't try to fix everything at the same time. When I coach people, I coach usually CEOs or chairmen of the boards and so on. And they say, well, how long will it take to be really successful? How long is it going to take me? I usually say 7 years.
7 years?
Exactly. But you're a young guy. So you thought 7 years, that's a long time. I'm going to be 7 years older by then. But how old will you be in 7 years' time anyway? Why not use those 7 years to really be excellent in one or two areas? Why not? What could possibly go wrong? That's what you should do.
Let's say somebody has strong yellow trait, but in certain culture or a certain situation, being yellow is not quite right. I mean, not right or wrong, but it's not quite adequate.
Not accepted in the same way.
Yes, not accepted.
Let's say that you're yellow and you find yourself in many situations that requires you to act in more of a blue way, let's say. I'm not saying that you shouldn't or that you can't. I'm only saying you can only stretch yourself that much. You shouldn't try to stretch yourself so much so that you get to be, well, again, another person. That is just not good for you. Usually not a problem when it comes to your closest friends or your family, because they will probably accept you just the way you are because they like you. They think you're a nice guy. But the thing is, if you have a work where you constantly have to be somebody that you're really not, then you should change your job, I'm an ex-banker, 14 years. in banking, and that was not that was not 100% perfect for me. At least that was too many rules, too many regulations, too many squarish kind of accountant kind of style. Even though I have lots of blue within me, I have more red. So that for me that was kind of get me out of here. But I didn't know because I didn't think it over. It took me a while to get out from there. So
any last words to Korean audiences?
Any last words, famous last words? Well, pay attention to yourself. Learn who you are. Learn who you really are and accept who you are and do the best you can. I mean, you will always be the starting point. Let's say you would like to go to the Swedish capital, Stockholm, it's called. You call your travel agency. You say, hey, get me a ticket to Sweden. And they will say, no problem. From where would you like to go? They will say. And just imagine you say, never mind that, just get me the ticket. That is absolutely impossible, obviously, because you have to have two bullet points. You have the starting point and an ending point. You will always be a starting point when it comes to communication. Where you are starting, you have to know where you are. Otherwise, you can never go in the right direction. So you will always be the most important person. And it is okay to feel that you are the most important person in your own life. That is okay, actually, as long as you don't use other people in a bad way. But pay attention to yourself and accept who you are and do the best you can, because you're okay. You're okay.